Hello, welcome to From the South in Havana, Cuba, and I'm Irma Shelton. We go live to Kazan in Russia, where the 16th BRICS Summit continues on October 24. The plenary session of the bloc is scheduled to open the Israeli escalade in the Middle East against Palestine and Lebanon. We go now live in Kazan, Russia. Go ahead.
Seguimos con estas imágenes que nos llegan en vivo y en directo desde el Centro de Exposiciones de Kazán, centro que se ha vuelto entonces la principal sede para los debates y las declaraciones oficiales de los jefes de Estado que acuden a esta 16ª reunión de los BRICS. Un centro que pues descolla por su innovación, su capacidad de modernidad, porque tiene también capacidad para 3.000 asistentes y todo esto lo hace válido entonces para ser la sede principal de este evento. Escuchemos entonces al presidente de China, Xi Jinping.
Regional también. China junto con Brasil publicamos un consenso de 6 puntos para resolver la crisis en Ucrania junto con los países correspondientes. Iniciamos la creación en la plataforma de la ONU del Grupo de Amigos de la Paz. Es importante lo más pronto posible de escalar la situación y trazar el camino para una solución política de la crisis. En julio de este año, en Pekín, se celebró una reunión de reconciliación intrapalestina sobre el resultado de la cual se dio un paso importante hacia la paz en el Medio Oriente. Tenemos que seguir contribuyendo al cese del fuego completo en la franja de Gaza y restaurar la fórmula de los estados para poner fin a la guerra en Líbano y evitar la muerte.
The BRICS Summit generates great expectation in Latin America and other countries. Analysts see it as an event of the great ambition that could mark a before and after in economy redefinition. In addition, it is considered a key space to consolidate greater economic independence for developing countries, including Latin America. The meeting's agenda includes topics of great interest to the region, such as technology transfer, an aspect that could help Latin American countries avoid dependence on Western powers. In addition, the new Development Bank of the BRICS is presented as a viable option to International Monetary Fund's formulas, which have been criticized, International Monetary Fund, which have been criticized for generating inequality and poverty in the region. In addition to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, to which the group owes its acronym, it now also includes Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Iran, in its expanded version known as BRIC Plus. The summit is taking place in Kazan, which is considered one of the most economically, politically, scientifically, educationally, and culturally important cities in Russia. The BRICS Summit will consist of 2 parts. The first one is a meeting of the member countries of the organization, which will be devoted to the theme strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security, which is the motto of the Russian BRICS chairmanship in 2024. The second part, from the afternoon of 23 October and 24 October will be a BRICS outreach session, the theme of which will be BRICS on the Global South, building a better world together.
Hablamos mucho sobre la modernización de la civilización china, que puede llevar a muchas oportunidades al mundo. El mes pasado, en Beijing, tuvimos una cumbre del Foro de Cooperación Chino-África y tenemos 10 acciones de alianza para mejorar
to improve the modernization
y darle nueva energía
and give new
al sur
energy
global en
to
su
the global
camino hacia
south
la
in their way
modernización.
to modernization.
El panorama internacional y en la manera en la que
The picture of the world and the way this
China
is evolving,
siempre
China
tendrá el sur
will
global en su
always
corazón y
have the
siempre
global
va
south in
a
their
tomarlo
heart
como prioridad.
and will take it as a
Apoyamos los
priority,
países del sur
supporting
global
countries of the global south.
y queremos que se
And we
unan
want
al
to
BRICS como
unite them
miembros
to the BRICS
plenos
as
o en el
plenary
formato de
members
BRICS Plus,
and
para
the
poder
format of
combinar
BRICS Plus to combine
estas perspectivas del
these
sur global y
perspectives of the
crear
global
una
south
una
and create
cooperación
a
para
cooperation for
mejorar a toda la humanidad.
the improvement of the world.
Quiero agradecer al
I
presidente
want to
Putin
thank President Putin
por la organización de la cumbre.
for organizing this summit.
Y quiero
And
felicitar
I want
esta
to
exitosa
congratulate
cumbre. Muchas
this
gracias.
successful summit. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, presidente. China ha contribuido mucho
China has
al
contributed
desarrollo del BRICS
to the development of BRICS
y para mejorar la
and
situación
for the
mundial,
improvement of the global situation,
invirtiendo muchos recursos
investing resources
para nuestras causas.
for our
Y
causes.
quiero
And
darle
I
la
want
palabra a la
to give
delegación
the floor to the
egipcia
delegation of
y al
Egypt
presidente.
and the president.
Honorables participantes, me gustaría expresar mi
I would like
agradecimiento a
to
su excelencia
express
Vladimir Putin por la
thank you
invitación a la
for
reunión de hoy,
Vladimir
en el
Putin for this
marco del
reunion
BRICS Plus. También
in the
doy la bienvenida a
BRICS
los
Plus
estados que
and the
participan
welcoming of
en
the
la
states
reunión,
that participate in the
que
summit,
aseguran el
that
significativo del
ensure
papel de los BRICS para establecer
the participation of
cooperación mutua
countries
y
of
respeto
BRICS
entre los
for
estados, que
cooperation
refleja también
between the
el
states
deseo
that
del
reflect
grupo
the
en
desire of the
coordinación
group
e
in
intensificación
coordination
con
and
el país
intensifying
y
with the
otros
country
países.
and
Hay que
others
traer los BRICS para tener
inside and out
intereses
of the
comunes.
BRICS to have
La
common
reunión de
interests.
hoy tiene
Today's meeting
circunstancias
has
que están rodeadas
circumstances
de
surrounded
temas muy importantes
by important topics
que amenazan el
that threaten
orden multilateral.
the multilateral order.
Egipto considera que es
Egypt
esencial que
considers
los países en
that it's
desarrollo se
essential
unan
for
e
countries'
impongan la cooperación
development
sur-sur que
unite
es necesaria para
and
enfrentar los
participate
desafíos
in this
comunes.
cooperation
Libia
to
Egipto ha estado a la
face
vanguardia
challenges.
de las acciones
Egypt
para
is in front
fortalecer la cooperación
other
entre los países en
countries to
desarrollo,
strengthen cooperation within the
para
countries,
reforzar los
to
intereses del
strengthen
sur
interests of the
y los
South
estados del sur en
and the
distintos
states of
foros
the
internacionales.
South
En este
in
sentido,
different forums. In this sense, we can't argue topics of today without analyzing the situation in Middle East due to the war that has lasted more than a year against the Palestinian people, surrounded by many types of assassination and aggressions in the territory of Lebanon. It is evident in the world. Is applied to standards. They are violating international documents and the rules of international commitments that resulted in catastrophes without precedents and the expansion of the war. This goes against international efforts to de-escalate the war. We have to avoid expanding this conflict to other countries that threaten and not to threaten the situation in the world. The BRICS Plus as a platform of consultants between BRICS and countries of the South, we have to highlight that it is necessary to maximize benefits of development from multilateral points and banks to promote access for countries in development to allow them to have funding. We emphasize the role of the new Bank of Development to finance countries in development to have projects essential for the country. It's important also to take advantage of meetings of the BRICS to implement joint projects benefiting all of us. In this context, I want to highlight the availability of the BRICS to assume different projects of cooperation with interest states. Likewise, it is important to continue consulting with countries in development to assure the effectivity of the multilateral system in the world. And go against unilateral measures. Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt is compromised to improve joint action between BRICS and countries of the South to reach our wills. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, Egypt has been working actively as a member of the BRICS, and we have the support of your country for the work of this organization. Now I give the floor to the representative of Ethiopia. I give the floor. Excellence Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Head of States, delegates, I want to thank President Putin for organizing this meeting that brings representatives from the global south. We have talked about countries in development and with emerging economies and exchange our viewpoints about how to move towards our common objectives and reach a development between our countries and the ways to reshape the global ruling. As countries of the global south, we have a historic responsibility and an opportunity to unite and form alliances to work to face the many crises that the world is facing. There are many countries in many regions that would benefit, and we could reduce the global suffering, and we could contribute for the objectives of development, organizing finances, and improving our economies. A better improvement is possible, and we can contribute to a sustained development. We can have access to funding, to better funding, and we could improve financial autonomy of developing countries and reach a reform that is necessary for the global economy. The influence of countries, developing countries, is growing in the world, and that's why we have to show our alliance and solidarity and unite our voices to boost the process of reform of the world ruling. Ethiopia thinks that multilateral cooperation has to be in the front of our priorities, and we have to work to democratize the process of decision making, to widen the voice of the global south, especially Africa and international institutions. We have to reach a representation of our economic situation as countries with emerging economies. In the global south, we seek for actions to improve the development between these countries. The countries of the global south have the potential to increase capacities of production, and we have to work to have better investment, funding, and tourism. We have countries with very good populations which have better technical improvements that could contribute a lot. We should try to take this potential and develop it, and it is essential this for expanding new opportunities. We are concerned about the conflict in Gaza and Lebanon, which affects civilians and could have very negative consequences, creating tensions, and it is necessary a ceasefire immediately and the protection of civilians. Countries should look for the way of a peaceful resolution of the disputes. We need to improve and fight for a solution of two states for Israel and Palestine to live peacefully, and look for a peace solution for this region. Ethiopia believes that in this reunion we have the potential to have a contribution for the global ruling, eradicate poverty, improve development, and mitigate the effects of climate change. And I want to reaffirm my commitment and my country's commitment to cooperate with BRICS and improve the developing countries based on solidarity, cooperation, and mutual respect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ethiopia. Ethiopia has participated with BRICS actively, and I thank you very much. We expect that this cooperation in Africa continues, and I give the floor to the President of Iran. In the name of God, Your Excellencies, Vladimir Putin, leaders of the world, ladies and gentlemen, I expect that for this collaborative forum based on the topics of this summit, BRICS and the Global South, building a better world, we could take actions to establish a better system and more relationships based on collective satisfaction. This coalition building and establishing of relationships is important for all countries to be free of unilateralism. The founders of unilateral equations and unipolar power is not correct. Mechanisms that add for this focus, such as the EMF, United Nations, and other examples, have lost their functions due to the politicizing of Western countries. This is why, since the beginning, BRICS, with their objectives, have been able to have a model between the countries of the region and in the international sphere. This summit represents the fact that building a better world is not possible doing it isolated. Joint actions could be taken to make reforms to the current system and create an order based on justice and satisfaction. In other words, a better world. A place where there are not sanctions, aggressions, or genocide, where multilateralism prevails above unilateralism, most people above the minority, equality above all, above disguising democracy against totalitarianism, dialogue above war. Many initiatives for peace have been threatened in international norms. Israel have stepped on red lines of the governments of the world and has created a new wave of violence and terror. The war is still in Gaza and places of Lebanon, and international institutions, the Security Council, don't have the capacity to extinguish the fire of this crisis. However, the support of Western governments, headed by the United States towards the Zionist regime, has made that reaching peace and stop war is out of place. Iran believes that this problem cannot be solved without joint efforts. So, in this context of principles and politics, we have sought to create intelligent networks of cooperation and efforts to strengthen cooperation in the world and deepen elements of friendship between countries. This is despite the fact that, contrary to international norms and human rights, the imposition of sanctions has gone against international laws and human rights, and many processes in development have faced different challenges due to coercive measures and political damage, impeding the movement towards a safe, peace, and developed world. In this sense, BRICS and BRICS Plus should design and implement a mechanism, inclusive mechanism based on rules for multilateral for the global south and less developed countries. Sanctions have negative effects for the countries and keep these countries from accessing to funding, so that eliminate their role in the international sphere, such as to fight against climate change and give humanitarian aid. Many countries that are member or are partners with BRICS have dynamic economies. This capacity gives value and provides efforts to create joint links and abundance and benefits. The use of national currency for commerce, new bank platforms, digital currencies, strengthening of bank of development and reservoirs and new measures can create a new world for all of us. New technologies, especially artificial intelligence, will have an impact on our lives in the near future. These countries, developed countries, will impose measures against developing countries and the access to technology. To counteract these limitations, we should cooperate, and we don't have any other choice but to join our experiences and accelerate cooperation. Distinguished people, the BRICS facilitates connections in the world, and the process will benefit in the reduction of difficulties for development and will increase the welfare of the people. The future belongs to the countries that have an important role in the creation of a new order of relations based on consensus and justice. In conclusion, I would like to thank again Vladimir Putin for the celebration of this important summit in the city of Kazan. God peace to be with all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. We rely on our interaction, and as said earlier, we are concerned about the events that take place in Gaza, and we hope that every measure that is taken is to reduce tensions and avoid that the conflict expand in the region. I've had conversations with colleagues, and we all hope for a peaceful resolution in the region. Now I give the floor to the President of South Africa, Ramaphosa.
Su Excelencia Presidente Vladimir Putin,
Excellence Vladimir Putin,
líderes de las naciones de
heads of state of BRICS, excellencies
instituciones mundiales,
of world institutions,
Excelencia
Antonio Guterres, General Secretary of United Nations, Ministers and Excellencies, allow me to start with a congratulation to President Putin for organizing a successful summit of BRICS and lead us to create an excellent declaration in the summit. These meetings of BRICS are important platforms for the development and cooperation among many countries, including the Global South and emerging scenarios. We should use these platforms to create discussions and to contribute in the development of culture, economy of our peoples. We welcome Russian initiatives that seek to strengthen countries of BRICS with many measures that have proposed as connectivity and transportation networks that in many ways will join our nets in new ways The continental area of free commerce in Africa will be an important contribution for commerce and investment locally and globally.
We were live to Kazan, Russia, where some presidents offer statements in the framework of the 16th Summit of the BRICS, a multilateral event that will end on October 24. Let's recall that the BRICS, in addition to Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, to which the group owes its acronym, it is actually with an expanded version known as BRIC Plus. It is now, they are also among the largest leading by Russian and most populated countries on the planet. All of them are rich in natural resources and their gross domestic product. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with From the South.
And the peaceful environment for peace, Excellencies. South Africa is concerned for military actions of Israel against Gaza, to which we have given the name of genocide, and is concerning. This genocide has taken South Africa to get closer to the International Court of Justice to solve this problem of assassination of women and children, innocent people. We believe the world cannot be quiet and see these massacres without doing nothing. We've been firm in our efforts to establish a viable state of Palestine that coexists alongside with Israel in peace, with international recognized borders based on 1967 with Jerusalem as the capital, in agreement with United Nations resolutions, international laws, and lines agreed internationally. We call for the international community and the Security Council of the United Nations to take actions with respect to this conflict. We begin the second year of the conflict and devastation, and it is a conflict that the world seems to have forgotten. The conflicts of the area persist, and we have to find solutions to all conflicts, and we have to be committed to the peaceful resolution of disputes through negotiations, inclusive negotiations, and we have to look for the countries to have external politics and a multilateral system, because this is the turning point of peace and development. Mechanisms existing in the world has to be strengthened and reformed for them to have an important function in peace and security. We cannot allow conflicts to continue taking place. We have to find new ways for peace in our search for a just world and interconnected. We have the capacity to support a peaceful environment based on the sustainable development, and we have to continue supporting nations and peoples that look to finish the conflict and look the way of peace. Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellencies, President of South Africa. South Africa has made a lot for the development of the world and to guarantee that in Africa all matters have the right way. We give the floor to the President of Brazil. Heads of states, it's a pleasure to present Lula in this summit of BRICS. It's a pleasure to be next to countries allied to BRICS. We have inherited of those who have fought for a new international order and those who conceived a new international order. The world has been experimenting in this new century, new changes. The Global South has the way to peace. In the past, the Arab League was in front of an initiative for peace, for the resolution of the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Today, Egypt has been important for humanitarian aid to reach those in Gaza, and Qatar is a bridge between Hamas and Israel. It was Brazil that October last year proposed a resolution for the current situation that was rejected by the veto of a unique country. It was South Africa that, with bravery, went to the Court of Justice to try to stop this genocide. It was the Global South who voted in the Assembly of the United Nations to stop this situation, and the role of other countries, on the other hand, has been not valuable. Those defending or that say they defend human rights create hate, and they contribute to the impoverishment of the Security Council. There will be no peace until there is an independent Palestinian state. The decision of its existence was taken years ago for the United Nations, but the UN that created Israel has their hands tied. There are no justifications for the acts of Hamas. However, the acts of Israel was a collective punishment for the Palestinian people. Launching explosives reached Hamburgo and Londres in the Second World was similar to this event. We have to take precautions for this conflict not to transform in a total war. We have to avoid an escalation, and it's important also in the conflict in Ukraine. This is the message that Brazil promotes with other countries. We form a club for peace, promoting dialogue and looking for peace. This could only be achieved by respect to international law and the principles of the UN Charter and the role of the United Nations. It is necessary to be focused on the challenges of our times. Brazil is contrary to sanctions that violate international law and causes damage to the populations of those affected countries. The case of Cuba is also to be highlighted. The measures that for more than 6 decades affect the development of the country's development and aggravate the energy situation in the country and also the health situation. We renew our solidarity with Cuba and we call to reduce measures that are against Cuba and remove Cuba from the list promoting terrorism. We know this is not fair. Brazil, in the priority of G20, selected facing climate change and reforming global order and the reformation of United Nations structure, financial institutions, and others. We invite all those who adhere against hunger and poverty to mobilize resources to face this situation. Likewise, we call to elevate awareness of contribution to fight against global change in the way for 2030. In Brazil, we can be users of our responsibilities and we should join forces not to stay behind in the energy transition and digital revolution. We cannot limit our position to provide resources only of centuries. We cannot remain quiet in the terms of artificial intelligence and its regulations of our data. This year, the G20 approved a call for action in reforming ruling of the world that had the approval of the present countries. Many of them, Brazil, proposed to the United Nations a conference to revise the United Nations Charter based on 109 article. We want to reach a system in which this topic of cooperation, global south, and a ruling of the world is fair. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister of Foreign Affairs. We give the floor to India. Thank you very much, Excellencies. Vladimir Putin, Excellencies and friends, it's an honor to represent our President in this summit, and I greet all of you. I want to thank President Putin for organizing this event and his hospitality. We are in a paradox that even forces of change have ignored. Our situation becomes more complex. There are emulsification of production, consumption, and countries that depend on colonialism have improved and accelerating their development. There have many improvements, and this rebalancing of the world gives us an opportunity to contemplate multipolarity. This shows how deep the change of the former order is. Inequalities of the past continue, and they are seen in different forms. We can see it in the access, in the resources for development and modern technologies, but also we can see that the benefits of globalization has been not equal. The pandemic and many conflicts have made worse the problems of the global south and the problems of food supplies and health are also important. The world is in danger of staying behind for the objectives of sustainable development. And this contradiction, we see it and we go over it. How we see this situation? First, we have to strengthen and expand platforms for independent countries and improve options for all countries. And this is the area in which BRICS can make an effect in the global south, reforming mechanisms including the Security Council of the United Nations among permanent members and not permanent members. And India has initiated efforts in its presence in the G20, but we have to democratize global economy, and our experience is a reminder of the need that we have of a resilient change. We have to make every region to improve their production capacities, and we have to improve infrastructure of the world to eliminate problems of colonial times. The world needs more connectivity options and better logistics to mitigate the risks, and this could help the good with respect to integrity and sovereignty of the countries. We have to share experiences, initiatives, the infrastructure of India in terms of digital manners, unification, currency has important relevance. We have launched an alliance for resilience, and these are initiatives of common interest to respond to global calamities and crises. We have done a good work, excellencies. Facing problems, conflicts, and tensions is necessary in this moment. Disagreements should be solved with dialogue and diplomacy. When reaching an agreement, it should be respected. International law should be respected, and terrorism should not be tolerated. The situation in the Middle East is horrendous and is concerning. The consequences for human beings and material resources are serious, and we have to find a solution for two states. In these difficult circumstances, we have to, in this situation, our meeting is important to call and solve this situation. Thank you. India has shown an improved 7.6 in their raw income, and the population has increased and it's important to see the contribution for the development in the world. I want to congratulate you for your success. I want to give the floor to United Emirates. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, President Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, first of all, I want to express we've analyzed efforts of development in a moment when we need joint actions to fight these challenges. Russia, with its president in the BRICS, we have a common view, not only with respect to solving problems, but also in how we see the way of the future that can provide welfare for the peoples of the world. We have to highlight that the BRICS is not only an economic association, it is also an association that allows our countries to use experiences, is the base of knowledge of my country, highlighting this vision of development with trust in the true association should be based on common interests and not on unilateral interests. We are together with the countries friends of BRICS. We see that today the world faces challenges, unprecedented challenges affecting all states, notwithstanding geographical position and economic development. It is about economic changes, climate change, between other challenges that we face in terms of energy. For example, the objective and the essence of our cooperation in BRICS is precisely that. We have to continue abiding by the United Nations Charter of the Security Council for the base of our acts to reach peace in the world that has to do with the creation of a new international front to fight against current challenges, to end the suffering of civilians, peoples that are in conflict zones. We call for the end of hostilities in the Gaza Strip, to give unconditional support, to provide help for civilians in these areas. In Lebanon, we see the need to create joint actions, the attitude of the international community to de-escalate the situation, to end the ceasefire. Your Excellency, one of the most important topics of this meeting is the strengthening of cooperation between countries of the BRICS in different aspects such as commerce, investments, sustainable development, transportation, food security, among other topics. In this context, our state is convinced of the need to widen cooperation with countries in the possibility to develop strategies of cooperation. In the current world, multilateralism is a need as one of the challenges that we face in terms of economy, climate change, etc. All these challenges have to be faced together, so multilateralism is the key point for stability and development. Our states understand that the key point of developing countries is the role of these countries, and we believe that countries of the global south have to be partners in this economic politics. Our country participating in BRICS as well as cooperating with friend countries has the objective of improved cooperation, open cooperation, and we trust in the need to strengthen friendship using different platforms. We continue supporting plans of the Union of BRICS for the improvement of relationships with other countries and deepen also in the future. I would like once more to thank you personally for the organizing this summit. We hope that the results of today's summit are taken into consideration. Thank you for the attention. On my side, I transmit my congratulations for the President of United Emirates in this summit. We give the floor to the President of the Mauritania. I thank you, Your Excellencies, and I thank you, Vladimir Putin, the President of the BRICS this year. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like firstly to sincerely thank President Putin. I want to thank you for the invitation to participate in this 16th summit of the BRICS under the motto strengthening multilateralism as a base of our actions. I would like to thank for the hospitality and the warm welcoming. I would like to express my satisfaction on behalf of the African Union for the efforts that have been taken to the African Union to have an important place in the G20. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the BRICS Union is one of the most important platforms for development and cooperation in the world of the countries of the Global South, and the widening of our associations and at the same time the different levels of development of our countries show that we are convinced in that development should not be exclusive of separate countries, but also it has to be independent of the levels of development. We have to listen to the voices, to the members, our friends, to respect priorities, and it's clear that our cooperation to be more stable should be in an integral effort and is a key point in our aptitude in the region for development. We consider that the restraint of sustained development and the challenges that we face in climate change, we consider these urges to act in such a way that we could develop and overcome the lack of balance in terms of economy in the world. Today, we can say that the African Union in general, to a great extent, needs to energize our dynamic of relationships and boost, and we have to use the possibilities given for the development to solve problems such as debts that put obstacles for development. We have to overcome difficulties in joint efforts, and at the same time we see that the representation of the African continent is low in international context, mainly in financing spheres, keeping these countries away from the agenda of many countries in the world. We can say that it is necessary to create a new funding charter, a more funding one, more resistant compared to the former mechanism. Despite the reconsideration of the structure of the international system, despite this, we should reconsider political administration. It had to be linked to the matters of peace. We should say that we should not be carried away by the traps and the attempts of imposing a double agenda. Without considering human values, we have to be concerned for the situation in Palestine and Lebanon. I would like to say that solidarity and cooperation, we lack these concepts in the African continent because we struggle to end terrorism and violence. That today is an obstacle for development. We are interested in creating stability and security in the international sphere. And for that, we need to join efforts, show solidarity and multilateral cooperation. We have to deepen our consciousness since we have a common destiny. We have to act together to guarantee peace and security. None of us can reach peace alone. We have to do it together, and that's why I call for the multilateral cooperation and international solidarity, also for the reform of the global ruling. So I would like to once more address and call the African continent to have a permanent position in the Security Council of the United Nations, for the countries of Africa to be heard in the international sphere. This is our common task. I wish success to our summit. Once more, I wish success. I'm sure our job will contribute
cooperación, seguridad y desarrollo en todo el mundo. Le agradezco la atención. Muchas gracias. La Unión Africana desempeña un papel muy importante en el continente con el que Rusia tiene los lazos históricos muy profundos. Le deseamos éxitos y agradecemos el trabajo y nuestro trabajo. Otorgo la palabra al presidente de Bielorrusia, Alexander Lukashenko. Estimados señores y señoras, estimado Vladimir Vladimirovich, le felicito por la presidencia exitosa. Todo está muy oportuno y muy eficiente. En un periodo corto, en términos históricos, la Unión llegó a ser un centro de atracción cada vez más países.
An attractive center. Every time more countries have common interest with a common order of the world, guaranteeing equality of sovereign states, not despite their size and political force, recognizing the right of each of them to determine their own politics. BRICS is an association of the future. According to its potential, can make closer the end of the Western power responsible for the development of international relationships in the past. The states of BRICS can make these efforts to be in the matters of all the countries of the world. We share the philosophy of the BRICS. Belarus is according to its potential
piece of puzzle,
can
building
make
together the
closer
future of our
the end
organization.
of the
Participation of
Western
Belarus
power
expands
responsible
the borders of
for
possibilities of the organization, making it more universal
the
and
development of
comprehensive.
international relationships in the past.
Allow
States
me
of
to
BRICS can make
map out
to say that Belarus will be an important factor in our organization. The participation of Belarus would widen possibilities of the Union, making it more universal. Allow me to highlight different directions in realizing an important role. First, security. Mutual respect, security, guarantees of development of each country in confrontations are the principles that we have to build a new world order from our point of view. Second, sustainable development for many countries of the world. It is important to build economically independent states with natural resources, with benefits of nature. Belarus is able to share experience in how to make others stronger in the attempts of color revolutions, multiply human potential and standardize levels of life and use technologies. Third, the fight against poverty and climate change. Belarus is one of the leaders in exporting fertilizers of many important products of agriculture and technology. We contribute to the development of food industry in the world. We are able to contribute in the development of technology in the world to fight climate change and also in the use of lands. Fourth, in the humanitarian sphere. Education in Belarus is respected in the world. The representatives of many countries come to this country, Belarus, to receive diplomas. It is Belarus, a school of science. In priorities is energy, technologies, medicine, and the sphere of technological information. Belarus has accumulated experience in the sphere aerospatial and can contribute in initiatives to create satellite systems for BRICS and special investigations for the future. We will be glad to share these experiences and our advancements. Belarus has a high level of relationships and trust with the majority of the countries who are in this room. With many of you, we have a history of cooperation, and now we can increase our advances with Minsk. Minsk has desired to be a plenary member of the organization. Thank you for your attention. I thank you for your intervention. Belarus shows a good rhythm of development in the different areas, and we contribute for the development of our organization. We give the floor to the President of Laos. The President of the Asian Associated States. Your Excellency, President Putin, heads of state of the BRICS, for me it's an honor and privilege to receive the invitation to the summit with Vladimir Putin heading this summit, guaranteeing the possibility of uniting heads of state of countries, members of the BRICS, for developing countries in the global south in this beautiful city of Kazan. Your Excellencies, the international community today faces many challenges, and that's why it's every time more difficult to guess how the future will develop. These challenges create a serious threat for the global south in terms of security, affecting attempts of development of many countries, including those developing. Today, BRICS has an important role in the change of the global order. Tools of cooperation are useful for many countries, especially for developing countries in the global south. At the same time, it helps to build a better future. These obligations correspond to the topic of our meeting, the building of a better world. That's why I would like to highlight Russia as a founder of BRICS, presenting initiatives established in the framework of cooperation, helping to overcome difficulties faced by the international community. Your Excellencies, the Republic of Laos expects to have tools to reach multilateral development, highlighting the role in the spirit of multilateral mechanism important to reach equal development, security and peace. president of Asian countries to develop strategies for cooperation, inclusive cooperation, and widening of rights for men and women. Moreover, I'd like to create a mechanism strengthening cooperation among members of Asia and their partners in dialogue, including also countries of BRICS. In this sense, I would like to share a series of considerations that I have. First, Laos considers that BRICS is an efficient mechanism for cooperation that has a big potential to influence in the international sphere. That's why we want BRICS to strengthen its leadership and promote movement towards equality and balance in the world. To strengthen multilateral cooperation, the countries should help each other and increment help in the global south, in commerce, investment, tourism, transformation, in digital spheres, clean energy, education, human capital, all that we create scenarios for the development until year 2030. And we'll make sure inclusivity in fulfilling these objectives, considering the success of BRICS in the international sphere. Laos wants to formally announce its interest in becoming a member of the organization. We want to cooperate in different sectors. We would like to count with your support and acceptance of our country as a future member of BRICS. To conclude, the Republic of Laos is a country committed with cooperation with the countries of BRICS, developing countries of the Global South. We are convinced that our speech in this summit will reach a strengthening of cooperation, aiming to build a better world for all of us. And I wish this 16th summit success. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for participating in our work as head of state and as president. This region develops rapidly and will be a priority in our joint work. Now I give the floor to the President of Turkey. Heads of states and government, I welcome all of you. On behalf of my country, I'm satisfied with the possibility of participating in BRICS Plus. I would like to thank Vladimir Putin the invitation. I congratulate you for organizing this summit, and I wish success for the following president, Brazil, who will take the presidency of BRICS. I thank all friends that have expressed condolences with respect to the attack, the terrorist attack of yesterday. But this attack only consolidates our determination to fight terrorism. Today we see a series of challenges starting with security, terrorism, climate change, problems in food supplies. BRICS allows us to coordinate in these topics, taking into account the fragile state of the economy, changes, imbalances of economic power. We see that the system that appeared after World War II requires changes, so we have to create new changes, focus imbalance. It is necessary to look for solutions for the problems using our collective cooperation involving all parts. BRICS gives us opportunities to build a better world. Besides, it is necessary to develop different organizations. We are part of a series of platforms, multilateral platforms, including G20. We have mechanisms of cooperation with countries of every region. Our cooperation is based on logic, mutual benefits, to benefit all parts. Building a just global order, sustainable development is only acquired through guaranteeing security in our borders. Without ending bloodshed, we cannot guarantee development. Israel continues attacking and doesn't want to stop the aggression. This goes beyond what is considered being sensitive. Israel takes this crisis to a new level by attacking Lebanon. Nobody can keep it from going to justice. A solution is the creation of an independent state for Palestine with the capital in Jerusalem. Is a demand that has to be met. The support of Israel with the supplies of weapons without conditions only worsen the crisis. We started with an initiative to end the selling of arms to Israel, and I would like to count with your cooperation. And those people that are, because of those people that are crying in the regions. I hope that this meeting is beneficial for our common work, and I congratulate you for this summit. President Turkey, under your leadership, has an external policy that should be respected. We do a lot to solve many situations in the region, and I'm convinced that the work of Turkey in our organization will be important. Now, President of Uzbekistan. Members of delegations, I would like to add to the words of congratulation for Vladimir Putin for the warm welcoming and organizing this event in Kazan, with a rich history coexisting different parts of the world. This meeting is important for the dialogue and talk about important topics of the global development. Today, the world moves rapidly to destruction, conflicts increase, creating suffering for people, and irreversible loss. Commerce and economy problems aggravate. New barriers appear among countries. In this context, BRICS, working on the basis of principles such as equality of rights, respect of sovereignty, and respect of ways of development, works as a respected joint for cooperation in the world. We are convinced that this model of cooperation can become a base for a new structure in the global ruling, preserving the important function of the United Nations. I support the remarks made about constructive dialogue without biases. It is time to reform institutions of international sphere and change the format of global institutions. Uzbekistan has been participating in the Youth Summit in meetings dedicated to security and other events. We have the commitment to continue deepening the links with countries of BRICS. We'll continue working using opportunities that we have in the context of BRICS. We share the commitment of BRICS countries towards development to solve problems due to inequality, aggravated, and economic exclusivity. There are programs needed to overcome problems, social problems, environmental problems. Poverty should be decreased. Modernize structures is an important role of financial institutions. Uzbekistan has intention to cooperate with the Bank of New Development of BRICS to implement developments of investment. We are interested in cooperating in the digital sphere for environmental solutions. Also, we hope to participate in joint efforts of BRICS in terms of artificial intelligence to prevent risks in conforming common standards in these topics. I'm willing to join efforts of BRICS in the context also of United Nations and the investments platforms. We hope to work with BRICS to increase transportation platform solutions. Also, we hope to participate in joint efforts of BRICS in terms of artificial intelligence to prevent risks
So
in
for us, the
conforming
priority remains
common standards in these
cooperation in
topics.
BRICS space.
Also, fighting against climate change, developing commerce and trading development. The countries interested in this direction also cooperate, and it is an important topic. The challenges faced against terrorism. Special attention should be paid to preventing radicalizing of extremist ideology. Above all, with young people, we are concerned about the deepening of conflicts in Middle East. This conflict transforms the spotlight of a global crisis involving neighbor countries. With pain in our hearts, we see the disaster in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon. Any objective does not justify these actions, mainly when it is about children and innocent lives. A ceasefire should be implemented and victims should be assisted. A pacific resolution should be carried out and the pacific creation of two states. We cannot avoid talking about Afghanistan. We cannot isolate but help the population of this country to solve the social problems of development, building progress and progress. Participants on the summit, Uzbekistan wants to cooperate on the basis of mutual cooperation to reach sustainable development. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. President. Uzbekistan, under your leadership, shows an impressive speed of development. I would like to thank your words. You have a potential for development, and we pay attention to that. I thank your participation in events and this summit. We give importance to topics related to the situation in Palestine. Now I give the floor to the President of Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas. Thank you very much, Mr. President Vladimir Putin. President of Russia and President this year of BRICS, heads of state, leaders of countries members of BRICS, I greet you all. In the first place, I would like to express my appreciation to all of you to invite Palestine in the work of this summit celebrated, aiming to strengthen links of cooperation among countries of BRICS and the Global South. This gives us an opportunity to give our view in different topics: security, energy, culture, peace, and boosting solutions for pending problems. Thanks to this, we could build a better world in this sense. I would like to congratulate the new countries that enter the BRICS: Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, Iran. Their entering to the group shows their importance in the international sphere. We hope that Palestine also is accepted in the group. The development of BRICS, the wish of many countries to enter, is a wish of all to create a new world order, more balanced, taking into account the inability of other structures to solve current situations and all problems that the world is suffering today, and particularly to solve the problem in Palestine. Throughout a year, the Palestinian people has been suffering of a disaster, the biggest since 1948, with the living of Palestinians of their lands. Israel is taking a genocide in the Gaza Strip, trying to expel inhabitants out of their own native lands. Crimes are being committed in the northern part of the region, where people are dying from hunger. We are also witness of aggressions of those radicals in the West Bank, all that violate the norms of international laws. Israel has taken the decision of closing the office of Babur in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, impeding satisfying the needs of the Palestinian refugees in the territories that are occupied. The measures has to be taken for the Israeli government to stop with these practices. That's why it is important to pay attention to the resolutions of the Security Council of the United Nations to guarantee total access and withdraw Israeli army from the Gaza Strip for local inhabitants to return to their homes and recover after the conflict. Heads of delegations, justice for the Palestinian people is a proof of resistance for all of us after 76 years of struggle, violence with our people. The moment has come to put an end to the violence and injustices, to end the aggression of Israel, and to abide by the United Nations resolutions for Israel to end its presence in the lands that are occupied in less than a year. Otherwise, sanctions should be implemented. We have also to cooperate with United Nations and interested parties to create a cooperation effort. We count with the support of BRICS, a group that influences the international sphere and can have solutions for different topics. Heads of state. Palestine considers that the principles of peace of BRICS are important to conduct the policy of the group based on justice and dialogue, values that are in agreement with the desires of the Palestinian people. We thank the heads of state of BRICS for supporting the Palestinian people for its independence. We confirm once more the will of the Palestinian people to adhere to the BRICS group to strengthen relationship of association and participate in different groups. We are willing to follow the spirit of BRICS and share the values to reach the common objectives and create bridge of association for a better future. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your words. Thank you, and I hope that you succeed in your efforts. Integration of BRICS with the Global South and countries such as Palestine is a topic that we consider. The situation of Palestine is a catastrophe and we are concerned about it. It has an effect in the hearts of most people in the world, and we should do our best to change this situation, whose bait should be the creation of a Palestinian state that was established by the United Nations. Thank you very much, and I give the floor to the President of Venezuela, Mr. Nicolas Maduro. President Vladimir Putin, presidents, heads of state, heads of delegations, I have brought a speech to read, but this is a very rich dialogue. There are elements of support that I have taken notes of in this continuous search for joint efforts of humanity, creating a new international order. I congratulate President Putin for the inclusive aspect of the leadership of Russia for the organization of this summit. Venezuela have participated in all instances, in all forums, technical, political, more than 200 meetings, looking for solutions, practical solutions for the needs of this world. Aspiring for a new world is an old topic. After Second World War, a restructuring of United Nations focus on different peoples, and a system was created that gave hope, and bases were created for international rights assumed by countries of all regions in the world. The surge of change, reminded by the Foreign Minister of Brazil, had many leaders in the creation of the non-aligned countries. A hope in the 50s, 60s with Egypt, Indonesia, Cuba, among the promoters of that moment of decolonizing of Africa, Asia, and search of independence and dignity. The movement of non-alliance had an important position in that time. The G20 emerged for the United Nations security. BRICS emerged in a moment in which there is a change in times. A new era has emerged. New powers, new superpowers have been born, and countries that, such as Venezuela, and regions such as Latin America and Caribbean, we can see Cuba, Nicaragua, Bolivia, We hope, but also with our big dreams, we aspire, we want our right to independence to be respected. BRICS has put in the international sphere new paradigms. And paying attention to Johannesburg Declaration and Kazan's Declaration, I would highlight two elements. One, the need of a new economic agenda with practical solutions to the problems of international commerce. Also, in financing exchange is a need. Mr. President, a new financing structure. We have to say clearly we are aware of the need. It is not only about making little reforms of the funding system, financing system that cannot resist more reforms, because former countries, colonial countries, want to impose mechanisms of hegemony in the financing systems. That's why Venezuela insists in the need for moving forward in solidifying the new bank of BRICS, and new for the people of the global south, for their development, to have access to investment, to move forward with a new system of payment, substituting the payment systems used sometimes as weapons. Venezuela was taking out of payment systems as sanctions and ways of attacking that you all well know. It is necessary currencies that combine currencies of superpowers with the right of our countries to have access to it. We have to find solutions for the challenges of a new economy, including independent countries that aspire to dignity. Second, a refunding of the United Nations system is necessary. I was telling to Antonio Guterres, every time a missile hits a building in Gaza and kills people, every time a missile hits Beirut or Lebanon, those missiles destroy the system of United Nations. Where is the International Court of Justice? Was it only created to follow and hunt countries from the south? It is only there to take out documents, show regulations. The lives of Palestinian children don't have value. We have to look for solutions for the restructuring of the United Nations system, agonizing in the emergence of Nazi and fascist groups. A new world is possible. We believe that a new world has already been born. BRICS is the center of the emergence of this new world, a world with values and principles. As I said to Vladimir Putin yesterday, Venezuela is part of this family of BRICS. I thank the invitation. The first time that a president of Venezuela attends to BRICS Summit, we take into consideration the BRICS principles with conviction. 200 years ago, in a totally different country, Simon Bolivar talked with the sword in his hands, liberating continents, and wanted the balance in the world. As said by Hugo Chávez Fría, the time of a multi-center plural world has arrived. BRICS can count on Venezuela and with the project of our revolution. Mr. President, Venezuela, under your leadership, continues the policy of Chavez, shows the continued growth, 5% last year, 7% this year. I'm convinced that you have chosen the right path, and the government, after your election, will do everything possible to cooperate with other countries in the context of the cooperation with BRICS. Thank you for your cooperation. The President of Kazakhstan has now the floor. Heads of State, General Secretary of United States.
Legitimate government created under your able leadership after the election will do a lot to promote your country and promote cooperation with other countries too, within the framework and within the circuit of BRICS. Thank you so much for your speech. Now, the floor is given to the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Tokayev. Distinguished heads of state, Your Excellency, Secretary General of the United Nations, first and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, for his invitation for the excellent setting of the BRICS Summit in Kazan, which is a unique historical city of the Eurasian continent. Now BRICS is a global center of the global attraction. Practical interest is expressed by multiple countries who seek to have a mutually beneficial cooperation. BRICS has a strong potential for development. It brings together countries from different continents. It strengthens solidarity. It efficiently uses joint opportunities to the benefit of all participating countries. BRICS has both the resources and the experiences to build a future building on the principles of joint prosperity, mutual respect, and partnership. To Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan attaches a lot of importance to the fact that with every BRICS member state, we have truly friendly relations. I haven't a single doubt that the multilateral efforts of BRICS will contribute to the activities of the United Nations, which still represents an irreplaceable entity, being universal too. The principles of diplomacy and dialogue, as enshrined in the United Nations Charter, form the core of the BRICS agenda. It promotes peaceful settlement of conflict and strengthening the strategic stability. We highly appreciate the concept of Russia to come up with equal and indivisible security in Eurasia in order to reduce geopolitical tensions through strengthening mutual trust and cooperation. Kazakhstan supports the initiative of China, the Global Security Initiative, which seeks to maintain global stability, protect sovereignty, and to use multilateral avenues and to peacefully settle conflicts. Kazakhstan generally supports China and Brazil's peace plan on Ukraine. Our country shares the concerns of participant countries of BRICS by the exacerbation in the Middle East, which resulted in multiple casualties and the humanitarian catastrophe. Our joint resolution of the root causes of the conflict, such as poverty, inequality, lack of education, are to address this is, in our opinion, the key factor to strengthen international political solidarity. Kazakhstan supports the idea to reform the United Nations Security Council, to extend it by inviting new members from Africa, Latin America, and Asia. The voices of the global south countries are to be loud in addressing the issues of peace and security. And BRICS can play a pivotal role in this process while strengthening the representation of the so-called medium powers and developing economies in the global governance structure. Kazakhstan considers BRICS as one of the driving forces of the overall progress worldwide. We note with satisfaction the dynamic growth of the trade between Kazakhstan and the grouping countries. In 2023, it was almost 50% of our foreign trade balance. We seek to extend mutually beneficial cooperation in such areas as trade, investment, IT, technologies, critical minerals, food security, education, and tourism.
Kazakhstan is ready for close cooperation in order to strengthen the transit and transport cooperation in the BRICS area. Our country attributes particular importance to further development of the initiative entitled One Belt, One Road and South-North International Transport Corridor, as well as links to the Trans-Caspian transport route connecting Asia and Europe through Kazakhstan, through the Caspian Sea. It is a possibility to give additional impetus to foreign trade in the long run. Kazakhstan seeks to form lasting partnership relations within BRICS Plus format with a view to strengthening the energy security. We are interested in promoting the existing and in launching future-oriented prospects when it comes to oil and gas processing as well as critical metals. We should use the vast BRICS potential for overcoming the challenges related to climate change, such as extreme global warming and desertation. We are convinced that our BRICS efforts will make it possible to enhance the connectivity between North and South, eliminate imbalances between our countries, strengthen international security, and put in place conditions for a global process. Once again, I would like to assure you that Kazakhstan firmly intends to work jointly in the BRICS format in order to strengthen multilateral cooperation in the interest of a sustainable and secure development of states. I'm confident the BRICS Summit in Kazan will go down in history as an important milestone on our path to a better and juster world. I thank you for your attention. Thank you so much, Excellency, Mr. President. You have given a good assessment to the BRICS development. You mentioned that 50% of trade turnover counts for trade with BRICS countries. Those are real figures and real indicators of our cooperation. Logistics is very important. We attribute great attention to this factor, and we hope for active cooperation with Kazakhstan. And now I would like to give the floor to President of the Republic of Azerbaijan.
Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for the invitation. I'd like to seize this opportunity to congratulate Russian Federation on successful chairmanship in BRICS. Azerbaijan is an active advocate of multilateralism, which was demonstrated by us during our chairmanship in the non-aligned movement in the 2020-2023. During the 4 years of our chairmanship, non-aligned movement has made great strides towards its institutional development and solidified its stature within the system of international relations. Our successful chairmanship experience is helping us today as a chairman in the measures and in Asia, using our geographical location and infrastructure. Azerbaijan has become one of the most important hubs in Eurasia. North, south, and crosses our territory and all the segments of this transportation corridor are operating successfully. For the time being, given the drastic increase in cargo shipment across our territory, we're making new investments to expand the handling capacity of those corridors. Next month, Baku will be playing a host to largest international climatic conference, COP29. Unanimous decision of nearly 200 countries regarding hosting by Azerbaijan of the COP29 is a testament to support of our policies and to the confidence. We are contributing to cooperation between Global South and Global North on climate, and we will do our best to achieve mutual understanding both on climate change and also the matters of global security, rule of international law, non-interference of each other's affairs, and mutual trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As you have pointed out quite rightly, the role of Azerbaijan in the development of logistics corridors is extremely important. But not only that. Bearing in mind the growing trade volumes with Russia and other BRICS states, I believe what President of Kazakhstan has just mentioned also is very important. I would like to wish you all the best. Thank you so much, and now I would like to give the floor to President of the Republic of Congo, His Excellency Mr. Denis Sassou Nguesso. Your Excellency Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation and acting chair of BRICS Plus. Excellencies, heads of state and government, distinguished participants of the summit, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express my gratitude to His Excellency Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, who has gathered all of us on the occasion of the 16th BRICS Summit. I would also like to welcome heads of state and government present at this high-level meeting.
Touche à l'économie mondiale et à l'avenir des peuples. Je remercie les autorités de la Fédération de Russie pour l'accueil combien chaleureux qui nous a été réservé à moi-même et à ma délégation. J'adresse mes vives félicitations pour l'organisation remarquable de cet important événement. BRICS hier, BRICS plus aujourd'hui.
Meeting now, BRICS Plus meeting is taking place. The enlargement of BRICS and the number of today's participants is testimony to a greater interest on the part of Global South. Our collaboration would contribute to a just, more prosperous world order. The main goal for us, the countries of the South, is to pool our efforts in order to create alternative financial instruments which would regulate global economies in a just way based on legitimate interests of our countries. Here, on the Volga River, decisions are being adopted that will determine the future of the world in response to economic devastations that are unseen, while developing financial institutions better adjusted to the new realities, and increasing the trade volumes between our respective countries. That's how we'll be able to build our future based on a better, more independent and resilient economy. This attitude implies reform and adjustment of international financial institutions to make sure they better reflect the current economic realities and take into consideration the legitimate aspirations of our peoples. My country, the Republic of Congo, fully shares the aspirations of BRICS Plus countries, particularly when it comes to peace on the planet, general progress, and constructive multilateralism. While being aware of the growing importance of economic and political cooperation between the countries of the South, the Republic of Congo shows particular interest to the goals that had been outlined by the BRICS Plus countries, that is, contributing to inclusive and sustainable development, as well as making active contribution to the successful implementation of this important mission. Apart from having similar economic interests, our countries share common culture. It strengthens friendship between our nations. It is in this spirit that the Republic of Congo calls on implementation of joint initiatives in the field of education and culture. This would enrich the intercultural dialogue. Apart from that, my country is in the heart of the Congo River Basin. For more than half a century, have we been protecting the environment as part of our fight against climate change. I call on you to deepen our cooperation in the interest of preserving the ecosystems and biodiversity. In this context, the Republic of Congo has put forward for consideration of the UN General Assembly a resolution dedicated to the World Decade of Reforestation, in order to underscore the important role played by the forests for climate regulation. I call on BRICS Plus countries to play a leading role in this fight for survival of the entire humanity. I welcome your efforts aimed at protection of the environment and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. And I also call BRICS Plus countries to support the adoption of this resolution in the United Nations Organization. I thank you for your attention. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. President. You noted that global South countries share aspirations of BRICS countries. It is a joint vision on many issues, makes us better coordinate our positions. Thank you for your participation. And now I give the floor to President of Plurinational State of Bolivia, His Excellency Mr. Katacore. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome all participants, and particularly our brother, President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Thank you for your invitation. You are currently holding the chairship in the BRICS. I thank you for your invitation to participate in this meeting. I welcome BRICS leaders and heads of participating countries. I welcome the President of the New Development Bank, Madam Dilma Rousseff, and all participants. At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude for your warm welcome in Kazan and the hospitality extended to my country. It is a great honor for Bolivia to take part in this forum. It shows that we are able to establish a new multipolar world order that would be better balanced and more just for the entire humanity. Bearing in mind the similarity and the commitment of Bolivia to the goals outlined by your countries, I should state that we need to take reforms in order to better reflect the interests of developing countries. Bolivia is firmly convinced that global integration is needed. It is the most important mechanism for joint development. We share the vision of a better global governance, and it brings us even closer to BRICS. Today is a milestone. It is a very important day in the history of global economy. It is a day of hope when we see how well BRICS is symbolized by many colors of the flags of all founding countries, and it is even better reflected in the motto of today's day. It is a new day, it is a new chapter. It means that Bretton Woods institutions established in 1945 has expired. It was an era of prosperity of the West. They used dictatorship of dollar in order to subordinate and ensure dominance over Asian, African and Latin American countries, and thus to contain the periphery. We see a new day because the trend is irreversible. It is a path to multilateralism. Due to the use of natural resources. Despite this, these peoples have a cultural heritage which makes us even stronger. Peoples of the world have spent many years under control of and hegemony of the unipolar world order after the attempt to build a bipolar world order has failed. Today we see that multipolar world order is emerging, and it will control the economic relations on the planet. The situation on Mother Earth has reached its limits, and we are now facing a risk of the very survival of Mother Earth due to irrational arms race and concentration of wealth in the hands of a small group of countries. Daily, they produce even more strategic weapons in order to maintain their dominance, while inequality between the rich and the poor is exacerbating. The world is aware of this reality. Therefore, multipolar world order is an expression of the will, the interests of those people who have been punished by such illegitimate actions as neocolonialism, blockade of Cuba, and attacks against Palestine, as well as infringement on the rights of people who are denied their right to self-determination. We need to remember that Bolivia has presented has expressed its interest, has presented its claim against the crimes committed by Palestine in the case between South Africa and Israel in the International Court of Justice. We reaffirm our commitment to the interests of Palestine in the Middle East. We shouldn't forget about the steps aimed at destabilization and attempts to commit coup d'etats in countries who are potential victims of Western powers, those who seek to control the world since 1945. I'm talking about Venezuela and its oil, Bolivia and its lithium, as well as Honduras and Colombia, due to their geostrategical position, to mention just Latin American countries. Apart from these big problems, these macro problems caused by unilateral world order, The Russian Federation, as chair in the BRICS, promises that its actions will be aimed at promoting the entire range of cooperation on three pillars: politics and security, economics and finance, as well as cultural and people-to-people contacts. These words mean that we, the peoples, are not only statistical data. We are not a backstage or backyard. We are the peoples and the nations with our own history and our own culture. Nonetheless, under the current circumstances, we understand that changes should not be dictated by someone. They are part of an entire general process.
And we need such a reform that was mentioned during the meeting of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of BRICS that took place on the 10th of June this year. 54 points during that meeting draw a picture of the actions that should be taken aside from economic cooperation. They also reflect a common point of view. We believe it is necessary to build an international multilateral system that is more flexible, more effective, more representative, more legitimate, democratical, and responsible, which would allow the participation, a more effective participation of developing countries and less developed countries in order to grant them the possibility of choice that they're deprived of at the moment. Today, the economical force is shifting from transatlantic to the Pacific region. But global governance institutions stay focused on the global north, because these institutions play a decisive role during the decision-making progress and the decision of sanctions on trade, the energy supplies, and food security. This has to change. In line with this, the plurinational state of Bolivia supports reform of such bodies as the UN Security Council, the World Bank, and International Monetary Fund, which have to adapt to the reality for a just and representative basis. All demands have to be taken equally and have to take into account all the pillars of power. We support the reinforcement of the new Bank of Development, which is a key structure for financing the projects of developing countries such as Bolivia in order to achieve a fairer world. Global threats and challenges of capitalism that we're facing today require the unification of forces and solidarity of the majority of world countries who represent the global south today. We are convinced that thanks to the potential of our countries and with the support of BRICS countries, we will manage to stimulate the transformation of economy and global governments in order to reinforce the establishment of mutually beneficial development based on great achievements in technology, science, digital connections, and renewable energy sources. Bolivia is a country rich in mineral sources, natural resources. We're the first in supplying lithium. We have natural gas, traditional minerals, and rare earthly elements. We're going through the process of industrialization, and our participation in BRICS is aimed at mutual benefit of all the participations of this process. I believe that this meeting in Kazan will map out a new momentum in history, where many countries, there are attempts to enslave them, and depending on different conditions, we will try to map out our aspirations, the process of development, to gain back the sovereignty of our countries without any interference, with the right to self-determination, in order to restore sense in international relations. With respect for international law, and while ensuring equality for our nations subjugated to the tyranny and dollar. And at the end of this summit, we believe our results should result in actions that will benefit our nations and will contribute to a promising future for the global development of humankind and our future generations. Thank you very much. Distinguished President, you mentioned the Bretton Woods institutions that was at the basis of international financing system. And I would like to remind everyone that the dollar stability back in the day was ensured with a connection to gold. Then there were other agreements who have detached the dollar from the gold. And the only guarantee of these world currency is the stability of the solar economy, the economy of the United States, its power and domination in the world. Right now, the situation in the world economy naturally shifts, and I would like to point that out naturally. So our task to take these inevitable changes and transformations and make them civilized. This is what we're calmly tackling in the BRICS institutions, and we will continue to do it gladly with the countries involved in our process. Please, now I give the floor to the Prime Minister of Armenia. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, President Putin, distinguished heads of delegates, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to take part in the Outreach BRICS Plus meeting, and I would like to express my gratitude to the President of Russian Federation for the hospitality for the organization of today's summit at the highest level. The theme of today's meeting, BRICS and Global South, building a better world together. And I believe in this context, it is especially relevant, announced by the Armenian government, Transport Communication Project, the crossroads of the world. The meaning of this project is that Armenia is ready and is interested to organize in their territories to pass loads, transports, passengers of cable routes. This is the shortest route between the Black Sea and the Persian Gulf through the territory of Islamic Republic of Iran, Armenia, and Georgia. This is the north-south route. This is as well the shortest route between the Caspian and the Marble Sea, through the Azerbaijan, through Armenia and Turkey. This is the direction east-west. And of course, this route can also be used for transport communication connections between Azerbaijan and the Nakhchivansk Autonomous Republic. Taking into consideration this approach, we have proposed to Azerbaijan mechanisms of facilitated procedures of trans-border control, as well as ensuring taking into account legal base and with full respect for sovereignty of both states. I would like to once again emphasize that Armenia is capable of providing and will fully provide the secure transition of carriages, of transports, and of people through our territory. This is our desire, this is our obligation. We will guarantee and we will continue to guarantee it at all times. All claims that Armenia supposedly has agreed that a third party will ensure the security of communications on its sovereign territory. Or perhaps it's supposed in some document is not real. Dear heads of states and delegation, yesterday the Armenian parliament ratified a document on joint action of Commission on demilitarizing the border and the transnational security between Armenia and Azerbaijan, as well as the State Commission of delimitation of the state border between Azerbaijan and Armenia. After the aforementioned document comes into power in both countries, we can facilitate the process of demilitarization between Azerbaijan and Armenia based on the principles of the Almaty Declaration of 1999. I would like to point out separately that the decisions of the Constitutional Court of Armenia on these documents fully took off any concerns of the supposed presence in the Armenian constitution of territorial claims towards neighboring countries. We would like to state that these interpretations are baseless and illegitimate. Dear colleagues, both Armenia and Azerbaijan over the last months have repeatedly stated that the agreement project towards building majors and interstate relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan have been agreed upon almost at 80–90%. We've fully agreed on the phrasings of the mutual improvement of the territorial integrity, of the absence of territorial claims, and the promise not to put forward these claims in the future, based on the principle of non-use of force, of non-interference in the internal affairs of one another, with the establishment of diplomatic relations and creation of bilateral mechanisms to reinforce obligations disposed for the sides by the peaceful agreement. Our assessment is the following. As of to date, the project that has been agreed upon already addresses and solves all the principal issues necessary to ensure a steady basis for peace and normalized relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And we propose to Azerbaijan to sign these agreements. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. You've just mentioned the logistical projects. I believe this is a very important area of cooperation in the region, and it is of especially great importance that you positively assess to enforce these projects with Azerbaijan and other countries of the region, which over the last years we've spoken at length about. And I would like to point out that the process of remarcation and delimitation of borders, and I believe this is a great path toward peaceful agreement. And this is the goal of our meeting today, to exchange our point of view with the President of Azerbaijan. So I believe this is very in line with our work today. Thank you very much for your address. I now give the floor to the President of Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Japarov. Mr. President, dear heads of state and governments, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to congratulate the Russian Federation on the successful chairmanship in BRICS, to wish great success and effective work, as well as thank you for a warm welcome and the hospitality in Kazan. I'd like to express my gratitude to Mr. Putin for the kind invitation to take part in this important event. Current busy agenda at BRICS reflects the relevance for all of humanity. In this organization, we see a unique platform that promotes principles of sovereign equal rights, mutual respect and trust, non-interference in internal affairs, and mutual economic development. We share goals and principles of BRICS activities on allowing possibilities for economic and social growth, development of entrepreneurship, promoting digital technologies, putting forward innovational and ecologically clean technologies, as well as solving climate challenges. I would like to add that this is fully in line with the Sustainable Development Goals integrated in the Kyrgyzstan's NDS until 2040. Dear friends, after the decades of globalization and integrational processes, the modern world community is seeing the geopolitical and economical fragmentation. Has the world become more secure, stable, and prosperous? Of course, the question is a rhetorical one. We see today the domination not of the international law, but the right of might. Each year, we see the new lines being drawn, lines of separation. We see higher finances on arms that could be forwarded towards prosperity and towards overcoming economic inequality. Select countries continue to get richer while deterring international trade and manipulating the financial system, which causes great damage to smaller, economically vulnerable countries. Despite the current difficult geopolitical position in the world, Kyrgyzstan does everything in its power for sustainable development, has already achieved attainable progress in this area, especially thanks to mass reforms. The economy of our country over the last years is developing steadily, despite unfavorable external factors and difficulties on the world markets. Over the last 3 years, the economic growth has amounted to about 7%. Our experience is a testament that with the right viewpoint, with the political will and good governance, even smaller countries with restricted resources could attain great economic results. We believe that cooperation in combating climate change is especially relevant, and it is especially present in the mountain ecosystems. Climate change, the destruction of ecosystems, and pollution disproportionately affect countries located in the mountains. At the initiative of Kyrgyzstan and with the wide support of mountain countries, we're releasing the 5 years of action for the development of mountainous regions for 2023-2027, adopted by the UN General Assembly. Another one of our initiatives is ensuring a new global dialogue on climate change as an annual event within the UN framework on climate change and forming a discussional group for mountain partnerships. Allow me to take this chance to support the initiatives of Kyrgyzstan's side. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyrgyzstan pioneers for just non-discriminatory international world order, common access to the well-being of world economy and modern technologies. External trade should fully serve the sustainable development goals. I believe that working out alternative mechanisms of trans-border payments, new financial instruments, using new digital possibilities, the bettering of payment infrastructure will work towards the growth and effective trade in regional and global scale. Kyrgyzstan is interested in cooperating with the new development bank within financing infrastructural projects, as well as projects of sustainable development, both in BRICS states and in other developing countries, and we hope that its role will continue to grow in order to eradicate poverty, develop infrastructure, and raise our resistance to global challenges. We're ready to share with all those interested participants and partners within our BRICS Plus format. We're ready to share our best experience, to develop digitalization's infrastructural projects in the shift towards a greener economy. Especially high appreciation should be given to the scientific educational cluster of BRICS. We see great perspective in developing culture and art cooperation within this format. We're ready to join the development of this important area into cultural exchanges. In order to democratize international relations, I would like to share following thoughts. First, in order to ensure stable peace in the interest of future generations, we cannot allow the blockage or the division of states for our own and someone else. Second, we need to increase the effective nature of peace building at the UN, to ensure human rights, to reinforce our fight against terrorism, extremism, and the drug circulation. Third, we support the reinforcement of system of multilateralism, which is the strong beating heart of the UN. We have to follow the principles and norms of international law with no exception, especially those enshrined in the UN Charter, as well as those aimed at destroying the imbalance between North and South. Fourth, as a bordering country, Kyrgyzstan considers it especially important to fully support Afghanistan and the Afghan people towards integrating the economy of this country in the regional and international economic processes. We cannot leave Afghanistan in international isolation without outside help. Fifth, we call upon the international community to support the development of countries of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and other smaller countries to work by ensuring economic development, food and energy security, and other events.
Number 6, being a mountainous country at the heart of Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan has been advocating for the universal and comprehensive mountainous development agenda at the global stage. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I'd like to note that we highly appreciate the operation of BRICS group, and we're ready to contribute to the best of our ability to resolve the above-mentioned and other key issues on the agenda of BRICS. We confirm our aspiration to pursue and consolidate versatile cooperation with all the participating countries. The Republic of Kyrgyzstan states that it is interested to work closely hand in hand with BRICS nations and is determined to jointly develop bonds of friendship for the benefit of our peoples. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Your Excellency, Mr. President, you have mentioned the right is might, or the fist right, as it's also called, well, applied by some nations in economic or political affairs. It causes the backlash, the backfire. So, and that would, consolidate the use of the fist, the right of fist. But BRICS advocates for improving the status of international law instead. With regards to Afghanistan and mountainous nations and their susceptibility to climate change, we know about your concerns, and we mentioned that on many occasions, and we also talked about that with the President of Tajikistan, to whom I'd like to give the floor now. The countries adjacent to Afghanistan acutely feel what has been happening in this region and around that country. Over to President of Tajikistan, Mr. Rahman.
Excellency Vladimir Vladimirovich, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Delegations, United Nations Secretary General, I would like to begin by expressing gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, His Excellency Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for taking the initiative to hold our meeting. In light of the current international situation, I believe that the theme of our meeting today, building a better world together, is particularly relevant. It seems clear that the goal it set forth can be achieved only by strengthening equal government-to-government cooperation and by encouraging our countries to work together to build a more fair world order. At the same time, we should take the necessary measures in line with our commitment to the universally recognized norms and principles of international law. In light of the pressing global challenges, there is a need to consolidate our efforts to ensure enduring peace, overall security, genuine stability and sustainable development. Accordingly, during the recent session of the United Nations General Assembly, I proposed the international community to adopt a special resolution entitled "A Decade of Strengthening Peace for Future Generations." We earnestly seek and count on your support of this initiative. Today, we are witnessing contradictory geopolitical processes. Along with this, we observe the rise of threats posed by international terrorism, extremism, radicalism, cybercrime, trafficking in narcotics and weapon smuggling, along with different forms of cross-border organized crime. These challenges can effectively be addressed only if we have clear and coherent strategy. Tajikistan has consistently advocated for enhanced collaboration with all international partners in addressing these threats and challenges. To achieve these objectives, our country is actively engaged in promoting multilateral cooperation on counter-terrorism and its financing within the framework of the Dushanbe process. Dear colleagues, Tajikistan is monitoring with deep concern the developments in the Middle East and the escalation of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which has regrettably resulted in significant casualties among civilians. We immediately restrain and to take immediate actions aimed at security in this region. We, in this context, emphasize the necessity of implementing the resolution of the United Nations Security Council on the establishment of an independent and sovereign state of Palestine within the borders of 1967. We firmly believe that any disputes, conflicts and disagreements can be resolved through the political and diplomatic means. Furthermore, the effects of climate change have introduced another layer of problems. The increasing frequency of natural disasters related to climate change has resulted in significant loss of life and forced us to allocate considerable resources to mitigate their consequences. In Central Asia, the phenomenon of warming is leading to a reduction in the area of glaciers, which are a primary source of water resources in the region. In accordance with the UN General Assembly resolution, our country intends to hold a high-level international conference on glaciers preservation in Dushanbe in May 2025. We extend an invitation to your countries to participate in this important event. In this context, drought represents one of the most pressing global challenges, exerting a detrimental deep effect on all our countries, including the Central Asian region. Dear colleagues, instability in the global environment exerts a direct influence on the socio-economic growth of developing countries. We are often facing increasing disruptions in production and supply chains, as well as food shortage. As a landlocked mountainous country, Tajikistan is keen of the sound progress of its trade and economic partners and committed to expand cooperation with all of them. It is of paramount importance to take practical steps towards a genuine transition to a green economy, with green energy representing a key component. We have set ourselves the ambitious goal of completing this transition by the year 2037. We all well remember the recent COVID-19 pandemic that deeply affected the globe. The most important lesson we derive from this global crisis, in my view, is that no nation, irrespective of its level of development, is immune from the spread of such dangerous diseases. In light of this, there is an only way that we should foster a broad partnership to improve the quality of healthcare, make sure that new innovative methods for disease prevention and treatment are accessible to all. Distinguished colleagues, it is our conviction that only through comprehensive and active engagement we can ensure conducive living conditions for future generations in our shared home called planet Earth. The principal key of attaining this laudable objective is continued promotion of a dialogue among civilizations, and we must strive for greater mutual understanding and respect among diverse communities, facilitate growth and mutual enhancement of our distinctive, unique natural cultures and building truly friendly relationships. In conclusion, I'd like to note that in terms of influence on global processes and in terms of potential, the countries of the global south are fully capable to mobilize efforts for the sake of building a better world together. I thank you for your attention, and I thank His Excellency Vladimir Putin for his kind and generous invitation to take part in this very important event. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. President. You have heeded the glaciers indeed for such countries as Tajikistan, Afghanistan and others. That is a major issue because the ice caps keep thawing and they constitute a source of water supply. And also you mentioned the sanitation, healthcare standards, quality, fight against epidemics, and medical assistance are very important for humanitarian development. And here, any restrictions would be unacceptable, as well as sanctions motivated by politics. And unfortunately, this happens sometimes, and BRICS' main objective is to establish interaction in this respect so that all the nations could enjoy the benefits of sanitation, healthcare and epidemic struggle. Over to the Prime Minister of Vietnam, please, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, Excellency leaders, distinguished delegates, I would like to sincerely thank President Putin for inviting Vietnam to participate in the BRICS outreach. And thank you for your cordial welcome for us in Kazan. I wish to congratulate the Russian Federation and President Putin on your exemplary leadership as the BRICS chair in 2024. Over the past 2 decades, BRICS has asserted a significant role as an important mechanism for close cooperation, sustainable development, and effective resolutions of the common challenges facing humanity. BRICS has inspired and motivated the Global South countries, including Vietnam, on our development path. Distinguished delegates, the world is entering a new era, the era of extensive connectivity and integration, the era of smart technology and innovation. However, humanity confronts unprecedented challenges such as climate change, resource depletion, aging population, geopolitical instability, and the rising tide of inequality and division. These global issues require collective action from all countries, guided by a global, whole of people, and comprehensive approach, and the upholding of multilateralism and international solidarity. To build a world order based on regulation and international laws, to share responsibilities, and to act based on principle for peace and prosperity. In this new era, BRICS should embody the strong bonds among nations, particularly among developing ones. In this spirit, I would like to propose 5 strategic connectivities for BRICS and the international community to jointly build a better world as follows. First, resources connectivity. With its growing economic potential, BRICS should take the lead in mobilizing, allocating, and utilizing resources to adapt to climate change, further advance the green economy, digital economy, and circular economy, to ensure food security, energy security, and information security. Vietnam welcomes and would like to thank the new Development Bank for expanding its beneficiaries and finance 2 strategic projects in BRICS and developing nations. Second, strategic infrastructure connectivity. Connections between BRICS and developing countries are in both physical and digital form. We are not only connected through transportations, roads, railways, airways and seaports, but also through digital infrastructure, data sharing and connectivity, as well as the robust promotion of e-commerce and the global digital economy. Third, global supply chains connectivity based on the application of modern science, technology, and innovation. Thus, we will create new momentum for economic growth, at the same time expanding the room for development for all nations and diversifying manufacturing, products and markets. Fourth, people-to-people connectivity, cooperation in culture, education, training, tourism, and people-to-people exchange between BRICS and other nations should be further strengthened to foster a cultural space of unity in diversity, where different values are respected, similarities are multiplied, and the beauty of friendship and cooperation is cultivated and nurtured. As the great Russian writer Dostoevsky noted, beauty will save the world. Fifth, connectivity in reforming global governance mechanisms toward connectedness, sharing, digitalization, balance, fairness, effectiveness, inclusiveness, and comprehensiveness to develop rapidly and sustainably. We should be more proactive and effectively engaged in shaping global rules and standards, particularly in emerging areas such as governance, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things, among others. BRICS should take stronger actions in the fight against the trend of protectionism and the politicization of relations in economy, science, technology, and innovation. Excellencies, leaders, distinguished delegates, connectivity and integration to build a better world together is the consistent policy of Vietnam, which is accompanied by three major viewpoints. Number one, placing people at the center, at the subjects, the goals, motivation, and the most important resource for development, and not sacrificing social progress, social security, and environmental protection for mere economic growth. Number two, being determined to the foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, multilateralization, and diversification of external relations, being a good friend, a reliable partner, an active and responsible member of the international community for peace, cooperation, and development in the region and the world. And number three, adopting a four-nose defense policy, no military alliance, no allying with one country to act against another country, no use of Vietnamese territory by a foreign country to act against another country, and no use or threat of force in international relations. Excellency leaders, Russian renowned writer Maxim Gorky once highlighted, each nation, each country is an indispensable part of the great human body, and only together we can achieve true progress. In that spirit, I am confident that BRICS will be more united and maximize its inherent strengths to collectively build a world of peace, stability, and development. Our President Ho Chi Minh, the world's cultural figure and Vietnam's national hero, asserted, unity, unity, great unity. Success, success, great success. Vietnam stands ready to work with BRICS and the international community to realize the idea of building a better world together. Once again, I would like to congratulate President Putin for the success of this BRICS Summit in Kazan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Prime Minister. You have mentioned a number of very interesting points, but I'd like to flag one in particular. You mentioned the shared values of the BRICS nations. This is true. We treat the participating countries' traditions with respect, as well as the creeds typical of these nations and the cultures. That all of these underlie our success. Thank you very much, and I with pleasure yield to President of Turkmenistan, Mr. Berdimuhamedov. Your Excellency, floor is yours.
Thank you. Distinguished heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank the President of the Russian Federation, the esteemed Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for the hospitality and, of course, the warm welcoming. Turkmenistan is participating in the BRICS Summit Plus outreach for the first time. We thank you for the invitation to such a representative event, and we see this as a sign of respect towards Turkmenistan. As is known, Turkmenistan takes an active part in the efforts of the international community aimed at achieving and affirming the principles of cooperation, mutual respect, and consideration of interests in the world. Our country used its neutral status to advance the peacekeeping agenda, ensure global and regional security, foster a culture of equal dialogue, trust, and predictability in interstate relations. An essential component of Turkmenistan's foreign policy is the application of the neutrality model and preventive diplomacy tools to prevent conflict situations and eliminate their underlying causes. We are convinced that in the current conditions, the basic principles of neutrality are objectively in demand, and with the support of the international community can bring real benefits in ensuring global security. As a responsible state, in this regard, our country has put forward several significant prospects, and we considered important the headquarters in Ashgabat International Center for Preventive Diplomacy Regional Center. And of course Turkmenistan in this regard proposed a number of measures aimed at normalizing and improving the international situation and transitioning to constructive parameters of interaction. In this regard, our country has put forward several significant proposals at the UN, such as the development of a global security strategy, the initiative to grant neutral countries the status of priority UN partners in its peacekeeping efforts, as well as a number of proposals in the context of creating and strengthening regional security and stability. A landmark event in this context was a unanimous support by the UN General Assembly of Turkmenistan's initiative to declare the next year, 2025, the International Year of Peace and Trust. We expect that all states will actively participate in implementing the provisions of corresponding General Assembly resolution. Turkmenistan's international strategy is based on the country's involvement in modern geo-economic trends, proactive participation in solving pressing problems of our time, achieving sustainable development goals, overcoming crises in the environmental and food sectors, creating and ensuring reliable and fair access for countries and peoples to energy sources, clean water, and air. For this purpose, our state also acts from an active and responsible position. I would like to draw your attention to Turkmenistan's initiatives in the field of economy, energy, and sustainable transport. In particular, we are talking about the development of the Global Framework Program for the transition to a circular economy. Other initiatives include the creation of a global atlas of sustainable transport connectivity and the Alliance for Global Energy Security and Sustainable Development. In general, speaking about the current global geoeconomic trends, Turkmenistan highlights one of their defining problems, the increasing importance of developing countries. They are largely expected to bring new energy to the established, yet in need of constructive revision, former world order frameworks, and to introduce new meanings and purposes. The key component here should be the alignment of the levels of scientific and technological development of states, digitalization and innovative standards, the unconditional priority of environmental criteria in the economy, trade, transport, industry, extraction and processing of raw materials, and a number of other areas. we intend to consistently achieve these goals. A few words about the climate agenda. It is obvious that it will become a key issue and will shape the trajectory of human development throughout this century. Turkmenistan advocates a systematic consideration of climate issues as one of the fundamental components of the global approach to ensuring the architecture of security and development, the creation of multilateral mechanisms for monitoring and responding to climate, environmental, and man-made disasters. In matters of environmental cooperation, Turkmenistan gives priority to the protection and preservation of the natural landscape in Central Asia, marine resources and biodiversity in the Caspian Sea, and the rational use of water and water energy resources in these regions, taking into account the interests of partners and universally recognized norms of international law. We attach great importance to international cooperation in the humanitarian sphere, including resolving the problems of refugees and stateless persons. In recent years, Turkmenistan has established good cooperation in these matters with the UN, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and a number of specialized institutions, which has led to significant positive results at the national level. We are ready to share our accumulated experience and best practices with other countries. Our country also considers it important to give necessary impetus to cooperation in the cultural, scientific and educational spheres, cultural exchange, and the mutual understanding of traditions and unique arts as a beneficial process designed to create strong spiritual and value-based bonds, uniting nations on a sound and constructive foundation. We are ready to establish such interaction with partners and participate in the development of relevant plans for joint activities. Dear participants, once again, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation to participate in this meeting and for the opportunity to speak and share views and proposals. In conclusion, let me express my gratitude to the organizers of the forum for creating conditions and environment for successful and productive work. I thank you for attention.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, you have also noted multiple interesting issues, but I would like to emphasize specifically the need to eradicate the root causes of crises in order to eliminate them, and I fully support this stance. It is a fundamental issue. It is the top priority in addressing any crisis, including in overcoming difficult situations that we see worldwide and that have been mentioned today during the discussion. You have also touched upon your efforts in the United Nations. We often mentioned the activities of this organization. There are a lot of challenges and issues as we see the world evolving, and the entities that have been created decades ago must evolve together with the world. But with all the questions remaining, there is no other universal single organization in the world. And hence, I would like to give the floor to Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Guterres. You have the floor.
Mr. President, distinguished leaders and representatives, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I am grateful to participate in the 16th BRICS Summit. Collectively, your countries represent nearly half of the world's population. And I salute your valuable commitment and support for multilateralism and international problem solving as clearly reflected in your team this year. No single group and no single country can act alone or in isolation. It takes a community of nations working as one global family to address global challenges. Challenges like the rising number of conflicts, the devastation of climate change, pollution and biodiversity loss, rising inequalities and lingering poverty and hunger, a debt crisis that threatens smoother plans for the future of many vulnerable countries, the fact that fewer than 1/5 of the Sustainable Development Goals are on track, a growing digital divide, and the lack of guardrails for artificial intelligence and other frontier technologies, and the lack of representation of voice for developing countries at global decision-making tables, from the Security Council to the Bretton Woods system and beyond. These must change. September's UN Summit of the Future offered a roadmap for strengthening multilateralism and advancing peace, sustainable development, and human rights. I see 4 areas for action. First, finance. Today's international financial system is not offering many vulnerable countries the safety net or level of support they need. The Pact for the Future calls for accelerating the reform of the international financial architecture that is outdated, ineffective, and unfair. It includes a commitment to move forward with an SDG stimulus, to change the business model and substantially increase the lending capacity of multilateral development banks and their concessional funding to developing countries in vulnerable conditions, to recycle more special drawing rights, to restructure loans for countries drowning in debt, and to mobilize more international and domestic resources, public and private, for vital investments in developing countries. Next year's Conference on Financing for Development and the Summit on Social Development are 2 milestones to carry these efforts forward. And we must also recognize the importance of South-South cooperation. It doesn't replace the commitments and obligations of developed countries, but it is providing a growing contribution to supporting developing countries in overcoming obstacles to achieving the SDGs. Second, climate. Every country has committed to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That requires dramatic action to reduce emissions now, with the G20 in the lead. COP29 is just weeks away, and that starts the clock for countries to produce new nationally determined contribution plans with the 2035 targets that are aligned with the 1.5 degree goal. And COP29 must deliver an ambitious and credible outcome on the new climate finance goal. And developed countries must also keep promises to double adaptation finance and ensure meaningful contributions to the loss and damage fund, what was not the case when it was created. Third, technology. Every country must be able to access the benefits of technology. The Global Digital Compact commits to enhanced global cooperation and capacity building. It includes the first truly universal agreement on the international governance of artificial intelligence to give every country a seat at the AI table. It calls for an independent international scientific panel on AI and initiating a global political dialogue on its governance within the United Nations with the participation of all countries. And it requests options for innovative financing for AI capacity building in developing countries. And fourth, peace. We must strengthen and update the machinery of peace. This includes reforms to make the United Nations Security Council reflective of today's world. The Pact for the Future includes important steps on disarmament, including the first multilateral agreement on nuclear disarmament in more than a decade, and steps that address the weaponization of outer space and use of lethal autonomous weapons. Across the board, we need peace. We need peace in Gaza, with an immediate ceasefire, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, the effective delivery of humanitarian aid without obstacles, and we need to make irreversible progress to end the occupation and establish the two-state solution as it was recently reaffirmed once again by a UN General Assembly resolution. We need peace in Lebanon, with an immediate cessation of hostilities, moving to the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. We need peace in Ukraine, a just peace in line with UN Charter, international law, and General Assembly resolutions. We need peace in Sudan, with all parties silencing their guns and committing to a path towards sustainable peace. Those were the messages I have delivered to the high-level segment of the General Assembly in September in New York. Unfortunately, they remain valid here and now. Everywhere, we must uphold the values of the UN Charter, the rule of law, and the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of all states. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Summit of the Future charted a course to strengthen multilateralism for global development and security. Now we must turn words into deeds, and we believe BRICS can play a very important role in this direction. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Secretary General, you have mentioned we all should represent one big family. Your Excellency, Secretary General, that's how we live. In families, unfortunately, there are disagreements, scandals, division of property, even reaching a fight at times. The point of BRICS is to create necessary mechanisms for interaction, to create conducive conditions in our common home. This is our effort. This is what we're going to do in close coordination, among others, with the United Nations Organization, colleagues, friends. Now we have a short recess, and we will continue thereafter in the format of the working breakfast. Thank you so much.
Well, we were live in Kazan, Russia, where the BRICS Summit is taking place, and we heard some statements of presidents and representatives of different countries attending to the event. It is important to know that the BRICS Summit generates high expectation in Latin American and other countries. Analysts see it as an event of great ambition that could mark a before and after in economic redefinition. In addition, BRICS Summit is considered as a key space to consolidate greater economic independence for developing countries, including Latin America. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with From the South. Thank you very much.